I got fired from working at Red Robin for doing that. When do we get to bury him in a thing and jerk off on him, though?
I'd say I can take on 3 11-year-olds.
And he clicks the button and he's just this woman cussing him the fuck out. This is the weirdest theory I've ever heard in my entire life. Well, in a lot of ways, Big Boy's never left. I agree. He will tell you I'm a bad driver, but there's no evidence for that. I have intuition and I'm deep, and then, dude, people fall for absolute monsters on a regular basis.
Hello, welcome to the Two Hippies, One Drunk podcast. We are back again for another week. This is the show where me and two of my longtime comic buddies, Eric Fady, Tyler Charles, we switch off hosting duties each week, and we get to pick a subject we want to do, and we talk about it for an hour. And this week is my week. We're going to be covering the...
Wow, Scott really went rogue with that intro, huh?
Yeah. Oh, make it off script.
Much like some people went off script of what we're about to talk about, huh?
Yeah.
Aliens? No, just kidding.
It's a stretch. Anyway, no. So last thing before we get into it, we are running a promotion as always. Please give us 5 stars on iTunes and comment. And if you send us a screenshot of that, you can get a tarot reading from me or some of Tyler's awesome art pieces.
Maybe read the intro next time.
What was that? What else did you want out of the intro?
The words that we say every week that are consistent.
I've never once read the intro.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll have a talk with you later about that. Anyway, no, I'm kidding.
All right, yeah.
Oh, great time for a coffee.
Anyway, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna attack me on the intro for a couple more seconds. So I thought I had a little bit of time.
Some time.
No. So we are doing an episode on the 1947 Roswell crash, which I was not super familiar with, but have spent most of the last week getting familiar with, and it's pretty fascinating. I kind of wanted to start this out because, okay,
real quick,
yeah.
I just feel like it should be mentioned that we're also currently in Roswell, New Mexico at the time, which is kind of the reasoning that this maybe idea came to be. So
yeah, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, Eric pointed this out to me, and he's like, "Hey, what if you looked up some stuff on Roswell?" And I've never been an alien guy, more so because I already like conspiracies. I already do magic. Like I've got enough fringe beliefs, and I don't want to be that guy who's like everything he believes is totally fringe.
That makes sense. It's always funny because when me and Scott talk, because Scott is into, like you said, conspiracies, and my big two are Roswell and JFK. But the funny thing is, I don't even think they're conspiracies, as I believe both of them.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting. And I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but like weirdly, those two, I'm full on. Like, yep, these are them. They happened.
Yeah, and you son of a bitch, you turned me into an alien guy. I am an alien guy.
I feel like after reading a 400-page book, you have to be.
And it will get into it, but it is convincing. And okay, so the thing I wanted to start out with though is one thing that drives me nuts that I kind of wanted to touch on because it ties into all of this Roswell stuff is there's been this idea that I think is totally bullshit the last couple of years that people will say, oh, you know, if you put 3 people in a room together, like they can't keep a secret. So all conspiracies have to kind of be bullshit. And my problem with that is, first of all, that's just fucking false. Like, absolutely you can. And there are multiple conspiracies in our lifetime. Something like the Iran-Contra affair, something like the NSA spying that went on for a decade or two before it became actual mainstream public knowledge, where there were hundreds or thousands of people involved in it. And I guess the thing I really wanted to get to with that is that you don't have... There's people who like this information is always out there, even with like something like the NSA or something like that, or with the Iran-Contra affair for that matter. There were tons of people saying it was happening. There was tons of evidence you could kind of look into. It just wasn't being reported in the New York Times.
Well, what they kind of did with aliens, and I can't much speak to the other stuff that you know more about, but with aliens, I think what they did that was so well is that they basically hid it in plain sight in the sense that they just made it out to be that anyone that believed in aliens was such a nut job that like people were saying things, but because they did such a good job with the cover up of it, that it was like they were able to almost just have it
They
be
didn't
out
even
there.
need the lie.
Yeah, no, it was like I said. What was the phrase I used? Hidden in plain sight. Like they were just. Anyway, that's my opinion.
No, and that's a great point, guys. That's kind of what I'm getting to. Is like I would argue that all the time this happens. There are tons of stuff. That was the same thing. Like when I bring up something like the NSA spying thing, is the exact same thing. It was. There were so many people talking about it. There were so many people saying, no, like I worked for the NSA. They were doing this shit. They are tapping your phone. And but it's still maintained. The only way something breaks out of the realm of being a conspiracy is if they're covering it on like CNN and the New York Times. Right. Anything short of that, and it's just it's fringe weirdos saying stuff to most people.
And Aliens, like I said, I just think, and again, I know what you're saying, but Aliens was such a thing that was so easy.
Oh, yeah.
To rip on people for believing in quote unquote little green men. Although I guess you said it was actually supposed to be little gray men, but I've always heard little green men.
I mean, even this whole town is completely covered in just little jokey stuff about aliens and stuff that makes it cheapens it a bit. It doesn't feel like it could be real. It seems like a kid's toy or something.
Yeah, and like we were kind of talking about, we went to the Roswell Museum. And we will most likely be covering that in our On the Road episode because we've just got a lot of things to talk about today. But, we were watching earlier a clip from that Ancient Aliens and that guy everybody knows with the crazy hair who always talks about aliens and stuff on the History Channel. And if that motherfucker isn't a CIA plant put there to make anybody who vaguely believes that look crazy, like, why'd you comb your goddamn hair? Comb your goddamn hair if you're going to be talking about aliens. But what do we want to? Okay, so let me start with this. We watched that Roswell movie. You guys have any opinions on that?
Well, do you want to do the movie first and then mention that you read the kind of book, or should you release, or what do you think?
Yeah, okay. So the basic format of this is going to be that we are going to talk about the movie we watched for, I don't know, probably 5-10 minutes. And then I'm going to get into all of the Roswell research I prepared, which is very different from the movie.
And I was going to say the problem with some of this is that we'll again, like he said with the museum, we also traveled to what is actually the real crash landing site, which is up in a city called Corona, New Mexico. And we're going to discuss that on our On the Road episode, which we most likely recorded on Friday. But like, because of our doing that, Scott has been telling me and Tyler some of these facts that I didn't know, even though I've always been an alien guy. I've just kind of been on the surface. And so it was weird because when we watched the movie last night, it was ruined a little because I remember liking this movie. I saw this as like a kid and liked it, but knowing real facts, and Tyler, I'm sure, thinks the same way. Like, it was kind of harder because
because it wasn't matching up to the shit you were saying. Like, because it's like Scott didn't tell us all about everything that he's read in this book, but
enough.
He gave us enough for that whole movie to be like, this is kind of bullshit. Like there were some things that you said were the same, like a quote that somebody said.
Yeah, they did take some quotes.
Do you remember what that quote was? If not,
it was the one general. One of them was a general talking about. He was on the phone with him, and it was don't remember exactly what it was, but it was one of the times the general was on the phone with like Washington. And he was like saying, like, I already told Washington.
Oh, yeah. It was a guy who was like the subordinate of the general who was trying to expose all of this.
Yep.
And he was like, I get my orders straight from the Pentagon. You're not my boss. Basically.
Yeah.
And the movie was, it came out in 1994. It came out around the same time.
And you said it was a TV movie?
Yeah,
it said fuck.
It did say fuck.
It did say fuck.
Which I don't fully understand. They probably just bleeped it out or silenced it or something. But like, I would really describe the movie as it came out around the same time period as JFK, which there are things wrong with JFK, but it is a good film. It is. I would even go so far as to say it's a great film. This was JFK for dummies.
And it's almost in a way, I hate to say it, because it feels like they were trying to, tell the story as if like with JFK that aliens did happen. This did happen, but almost like with everything with aliens. Now that I think about it, like when you said it was alien or JFK for dummies, it was unfortunately, if you think about it, almost like what you would expect an alien person to be like, see, man, it happened, and we're gonna make a movie about it, man. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very campy, not campy, but just like, damn it, I wish I could have another representative. out there.
There was definitely a scene like 3/4 of the way through the movie where we were all laughing, where it was all of these high-level military guys at this table, and they're literally having this conversation like, so what are we going to do about these aliens? We can't let people know. They're going to stop believing in God. What if we had a conspiracy? Yeah, well, how would we pull off the conspiracy?
We don't even have to hide it. We can just put it in plain sight. Like, no problem.
Yes, the one guy, I mean, I know Sajid said it, but I can't even, the one guy in the movie literally says like, but if people saw these things about aliens, would they, what would happen to the beliefs in God? And it's like, what the fuck? As if any fucking high-level government official would be worried about the general citizenry and our faith. But
right.
But two, why would it matter anyway? Like,
yeah,
they would not give a shit about that.
Like, the citizens might no longer. Well, the only way they would care about the citizens believing in God is like that kind of does. In a way, I bet government likes religion because it kind of tamps down, general things that might happen without God and without the 10 Commandments and shit.
I feel like you can find a way to use aliens to control people. If that's your new thing.
That's true. If a spaceship went over us right now and was like, "We're your new leaders," are you submitting or fighting?
If a spaceship went over us right now and said,
Depends on the situation.
Yeah. Depends on what the people around me are doing.
Okay. What y'all doing here? Are we going with this or what?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not going out there by myself with a shotgun. Okay.
So to move back to the movie, I guess.
Yes.
It's like, it's too bad because again, it's like when you read a book and then you watch the movie and people joke, "Oh, the book's always better," but it is.
Yeah.
And that was like this. And Scott had given us enough info that kind of ruined it, even though it was still enjoyable. Like, I enjoyed watching it, but like, if I think if you hadn't told us stuff from the book, I think I would just been like, yeah, this is good, I guess. Good enough.
Yeah, I bet that's what happened. I think they're giving a realistic thing.
Yeah, well, that lends to the fact that we'll talk about on Friday, but like that we went to Corona. I watched this movie as a kid. They mentioned Corona, Nevada, and they don't even say Nevada. They just mention it briefly in a sentence where they say like, "Oh, the mortician up in Corona did something with it," and that's it. And it's like, so they really lead you to believe that this happened in Roswell or very close to it.
Well, and I would say too, like, okay, if there were two things that kind of are important more broadly that were in the movie, it's first of all that it follows Colonel Marcel, who is like the guy who originally made the press conference announcing that a UFO had crashed. He was a guy who had worked on the atomic bomb. He had been a general for decades at that point. Like, he was a really serious guy.